Hey, what's up, everyone? This is Gary A. Swaby, and you're now listening to Snowfall Aftermath. And I'm here with Mr. Richard Bailey Jr. How are you doing this week, Rich?
Doing pretty good, Gary. What's up, listeners and viewers?
What's up? Indeed, indeed, indeed. I want to thank everyone for taking the time to check out, the first episode we recorded last week, where we recapped the first three episodes of Snowfall Season 4. If you do enjoy what we're doing here with this, recap show, then please do give us your likes and drop some comments as well, because, seeing the engagement is only gonna, make us want to do this every week. And, the more engagements we see, the more it makes it easier for us to keep doing these things, and we recap a lot of shows, whether it's The Walking Dead, Power, One Division, all these other shows. So if you do enjoy them, please do let us know about it so we can keep going. We really do enjoy recapping Snowfall, because it's one of the shows that, for the past few years we've talked a lot about it. So it's actually a pleasure to be able to, having this discussion about the show weekly and everything. And episode 4 was certainly, a very explosive episode of Snowfall. So, so yeah, there's a lot for us to talk about here. So the way this show works is, we each kind of run through our takeaways of the episode that, we just watched and everything. And during our takeaways, we'll have some banter here and there about our thoughts and theories. And then, we also kind of have a little discussion after we give our takeaways. And then we also speak on what we're expecting from the next episode. So that's how, this episode is going to run. And we're going to get straight into our takeaways for Season 4, Episode 4 of Snowfall. Now, Rich, I'm actually going to let you go first this time. So um,
Whoa,
I'm, I'm,
pressure.
I'm very excited to hear about your personal takeaways from this episode of Snowfall. So go right ahead.
Okay, well, I know, first off, I know we spoke about Wanda a little bit on the last episode. And of course, they opened this episode with the infamous clip from the preview last week of someone attempting to shoot at Leon. So I saw, as far as what happened in this episode from a takeaway standpoint, first with Wanda, we did see that Leon, obviously, we already knew that Leon still cares about Wanda. Uh, made sure she was in the hospital, and she's basically going through the process now of trying to get better. Um, Unfortunately, I don't think that's going to have a happy ending, because even though she was able to stay in the hospital overnight and try to get things out of her system, probably has a lot of health issues caused from her doing the crack cocaine. So I would assume what's probably going to end up happening is that Leon, because he spent all that money for her to stay in that hospital, probably going to be a situation where she gets out of the hospital and then she goes right back to crack. I don't want that to happen, but it's very known fact that this drug, it ran rampant during this time period. It impacted a lot of lives, and it's something that is highly addictable. Um, I don't want to see the character go backwards, but I kind of feel like that might happen. So we'll see. Moving on to Leon, this was a great episode as far as him developing as a character even further. We know that he never ventured to get involved in any of this stuff having to do with Manboy and Scully. That was until he got shot at. And then all of a sudden, now he takes it upon himself to get involved. Did reach out to Franklin to have a conversation, and Franklin was not there to did not want to give any support. So we'll see what's going to happen next week, because Franklin's going to have to make a decision. But just to see what happens to this character throughout the entirety of the episode. You see him doing what he can for Wanda, taking care of the woman that he used to love and still does love to a certain extent. So you're rooting for the character to continue doing good. But then at that scene at the very end, the controversial scene that had everybody just, wow, I can't believe that happened. The shootout. There's so many ways to dissect that situation, but just that instant shootout and the fact that you had Scully's daughter, who was also Manboy's niece, getting shot. Um, well, that obviously, I will say this from a writing standpoint, that was an excellent way to connect these characters because I know last season it was mentioned they are relatives. Because of Manboy's sister is Scully's baby's mom, so they are relatives. But that was a great way to connect these characters. Not a great way from a writing standpoint to say if something happened to someone that they both care about, then would they be willing to put their beef aside? And now there's a question that you're going into the next episode as a viewer wondering if that's exactly what's going to happen. Because clearly they want Leon. But going back to what I was saying about Leon, though, this whole entire episode, you definitely want him to get some type of payback because they tried to take him out. So it's unfortunate that when it does escalate to the end of the episode, everybody gets killed. We see the young guy who joined Leon's group back from a couple seasons ago, who was driving the vehicle, also gets shot. It just goes to show you just how fast things could change, and how many people can get killed when these situations escalate. We've seen drive-bys in plenty of movies, and this stuff has been happening. It's been happening on a consistent basis. Still to this day, I would imagine a lot of these things do happen. So I understand them having to show that and to show that innocent people can get killed. So I think that was good, but it definitely is a very shocking turn for things to go. And of course, I'm curious to see what happens from here on out. The final two takeaways I want to go with this episode is, obviously, I know, Gary, you mentioned last week about this new guy that now Franklin and his mom is working with. And the fact that this guy is a threat, cannot be trusted. We saw the interaction that they had when they basically was talking about funding, putting money into this church. And we see what Sissy's true intention is to try to protect her son and try to make sure he gets out of this game without any issues. But that will not be successful because it just feels like you said before, this guy can turn on them at the drop of a dime. And I would not be surprised if that does happen in the next couple of episodes. But we'll see how it happens, how it unfolds. So that takeaway was interesting because it can go in so many different directions. And you see Franklin was very calculated in the previous episode to get that bookstore. It was all about business, so it kind of feels like with him jumping into this situation now, with getting this church, this is something they need to be very careful with. But we'll see how that goes. The final takeaway for the episode, I would say pretty much borderlines on the whole thing about the expansion. I know that it was alluded to that Jerome is not on board with the expansion. Louis is, and is trying to help that process move forward. You saw the exchange that Franklin had with Teddy, where he's trying to basically get information out of Teddy, ask him, how long do I have to keep doing this? And you saw Teddy get a little snippy with him and say, if I find out that something is happening where you're trying to end this early, then we're going to have a problem. So again, Franklin has to be very careful with who he's dealing with. And we know Teddy has been unstable, to say the least. The last couple of episodes, as I mentioned on our last recap show, the character started smoking. He was very much a loose cannon when they had the little shootout with the guys that harmed Gustavo's family. So you can't really trust any of these people. And Franklin needs to really think about all of this stuff. And then, of course, the other little quick thing I want to add in is, Franklin's ex-girl, a.k.a. the girl he started sleeping with in this episode. Because they alluded to that this is someone who he got with back in the day. I don't believe this character was on any of the other seasons of she wasn't on the show. She only was introduced this season because it's always been Melody as the one that Franklin was interested in. So you see that he sleeps around with her, gets information from her, and now she's all of a sudden working at the club. That is someone that Franklin needs to watch out for because she's getting a little bit too close to whatever is going on with him. So he needs to be mindful of all that. But the last point I will make is I kind of feel like Franklin. We'll see what happens with the character moving forward, but I kind of feel like he's going to be faced with some very difficult decisions, and I would not be surprised if someone does turn on him as things escalate, because it feels that way. Either way, whether it's going to be Mr. Davis, Mr. Paul Davis, who they've been working with, either he's going to turn on him, or either he's going to have to, take out Leon or sell out Leon to try and preserve his relationship with Manboy and Scully. Either way, he got a lot of things on his plate, so I'm very curious to see how the character is going to deal with all this stuff, because it's a lot to deal with right now.
Oh yeah.
But that's all my takeaways for this episode. A very well done episode, but very shocking, and very very impactful and emotional as well.
Indeed, and yeah, those are great takeaways. A lot of mine sort of mirror those a little bit, but I'll sort of give my take on things as well, and then we can discuss it further. But yeah, great job with those takeaways. And I agree with a lot of your predictions of what you think might happen with some of these situations. So let me get straight to mine. So I guess the first one I'll kind of talk about is Irene. Obviously there's a scene where she's in the office and she's kind of like struggling to come up with something, and then she goes to see her colleague, and the colleague tells her to pay close attention to the shelter that Alton runs and stuff like that, to try and find some answers. And then later on in the episode, though, we see that she's speaking to that guy who puts her on to the CIA. The whole fact that the CIA is smuggling the coke into the US and allowing it to spread and be sold and everything. So now she's got hold of that story, and that's like a major story for her to break. Like, that could make her career or something, like if she were to break that. But what I think is going to happen here is, I think that Teddy, there's a chance that Teddy might catch wind, Reed might catch wind of this story if it does start to come out. He may catch it ahead of time, because he has access to a lot of things that will keep him in the know. He has a lot of intelligence about things, so I feel like he might catch wind of the leak, and he might actually warn Franklin about this and tell him that he needs to do something about it, because this could put them at risk, potentially, and then Franklin will be forced to kind of do something about the situation to stop this story coming out. So I feel like that could be like a possible, situation that might come from this. We know that Irene is in, dangerous waters, because she's been very nosy, poking her nose around, in Franklin's business, and it was only a matter of time before she got a hold of something major, and this seems like it. So, and then she still has, the lead to Alton as well that she can follow up on. So yeah, I think it's going to get real dangerous for her if she continues to pursue this. And I think some action is going to be coming her way very soon, within the next couple of episodes maybe. But what was you about to say?
I just was going to say, I thought it was very funny when Alton turned her away at the shelter. She's trying to get a story. He said, "No, get out of here." That was funny to see that, but I definitely think that's going to change. And the other quick point I was going to add is, I don't think that Reed still knows that Franklin was able to get access to that file, that folder. This is the whole reason why he killed Andre. He had to take out Andre. So if Reed ever finds out that he has all this information, I mean, he does know that Franklin knows a lot about what his true intentions are. But I don't know if he knows just how much Franklin has studied on him. Right. So that's something that he needs to be careful of.
Yeah, definitely. Those two characters are definitely kind of playing chess, because they have their own interests to kind of protect. And I guess that brings me to the scene between the two of them that you mentioned as well, where, you know, Franklin and Teddy are meeting, and Franklin is asking, you know, if there's any sign of a finish line in the Nicaragua war and everything. So here we see that Franklin is clearly thinking ahead, and, you know, he's thinking about his exit strategy because if things wrap up, you know, with that war, he knows that he's no longer needed. By, you know, Teddy will no longer need him, and that puts him at risk. Now, I wanted to take a moment to kind of highlight the story that Snowfall is loosely based on, which is Freeway Rick, the real Rick Ross, by the way, not the fake one. So like, this is loosely based on his life, and actually, if you look into it, you'll see that Freeway Rick he was actually very mad at John Singleton for making this show, because they were gonna work together at first, but then, you know, John Singleton, I guess he got this deal from the studio, and then he kind of didn't proceed with Freeway Rick. He kind of went and did the story himself. So he was actually very mad about that, but still, you know, it's a shame that Freeway Rick wasn't involved, but still, it's a very interesting story. But what happened with his story was that, you know, once the US government had no more need for the agent that was kind of supplying, you know, Freeway Rick, he was actually set up by that individual to kind of, you know, take the fall and do some time, and he was actually supposed to serve a life sentence, but he was able to, you know, while he was in prison, he was able to start reading some legal books and stuff, and find a loophole that had him released sooner than, like, because he was supposed to serve life basically, but he found a way around it to where he could actually get out of the sentence. But the key thing I mentioned there is the fact that, you know, the agent, the CIA agent that Freeway Rick was buying from, and he didn't know the guy was working with the CIA, you know, at the time. He found out after, and he didn't even know about the whole Nicaragua war while he was selling drugs. Like, he found that after he was already incarcerated. That's when he started to learn about everything. But obviously in this show it's a bit different. But yeah, I just wanted to highlight that because the fact is that Teddy could set up Franklin to, you know, to take a fall, because at the end of the day, CIA is the government, and if they have knowledge that somebody, you know, like Franklin has kind of come up and, you know, made a success of himself by selling drugs illegally, even if they're involved in it, they're not going to want him to be an example of, you know, what can happen if you sell drugs. They don't want him to be a positive example, especially as a black man. So I feel like that could actually happen in the show, to where Reed will kind of try and set Franklin up. But the fact that Franklin knows everything already, and he you know, he's done his homework, like you said, I feel like Franklin might find a way to maneuver around that. So it will be interesting to see how that plays out in the show, because you know, right now this whole situation is dependent on that Nicaragua war. So, you know, if that slows up or if it stops, then, you know, there's no need for Franklin after that.
Oh yeah. Let me make a quick comment based on what you said. I definitely think they are setting this up in a sense where, as you said, Franklin knows everything, and the one thing that Franklin keeps harping on, giving you bits and pieces of him in every single episode, is that yes, he did all this to basically gain independence, gain some control, because society says that, you know, as a black man, you should not have all this power. You shouldn't be able to have a certain status. So I kind of feel like they are setting this up, whereas he may triumph over Reed at the end of the day, even if Reed does set him up. And I only say that because the character, yes, like you said, they've taken the whole path of he's gotten educated and he knows about certain aspects of what's going on. He probably knows a lot more information than we know as a viewer, in terms of only what we've seen on the surface level. But I kind of feel like they're setting this up. Whereas even if Teddy does do something to him, he will definitely have a way to get back at Teddy. Because one thing I have to say is Teddy, like I said, this character is unstable, or he has gotten progressively more unstable with every episode. Last season having to say goodbye to had to cut off his wife, his kid. That has to have some type of emotional, mental, physical toll on him. And you notice that there has been no communication between him and her so far this season at all. So I kind of feel like that character has a lot of flaws, and something can happen with him as well. And also the other wild card in this is Gustavo as well, because now that Gustavo knows that he's a CIA agent, I'm curious how this is going to come full circle at the end of the day. If it comes to a situation where somebody has to get set up, what's going to happen? Because I feel like all three characters can go down, but I kind of feel like Franklin is the one character that can possibly get out of this. He can go down with the others and still get out of it scot-free. So we'll see. But definitely inspired by the story you mentioned with Freeway Ricky. So yeah. We'll see what happens.
Indeed. So yeah, another thing that was interesting is like you said, Sissy and Franklin they met Paul Davis, and they're planning more business together. They're planning to buy that church and everything. And there's actually a scene where Alton, who kind of knows a bit about Paul Davis, he was questioning Sissy about working with him because he views him as a snake. And this is more foreshadowing that we shouldn't really trust this character, right? But Sissy, she kind of her position in this is basically she knows that what Franklin has built is wrong, and she kind of wants to build something that will set him on the right path. And I guess it's like a move of desperation, but this could also have some negative impact on Franklin's path moving forward. She might not know how bad this can go at the moment, but it shows that she's trying to make an effort to kind of set Franklin on the right path, I guess. So it's going to be interesting to see how the Paul Davis snakes them, because I do think Alton was correct in his assumption that this guy is a snake and he's probably going to pull something. But yeah, it's just I like that feeling of conflict within Sissy, where she's still a mother, she's still trying to do the right thing, but she might not necessarily be going the right way about it. But yeah, we'll see. Because I'm sure there's going to be something significant with this church that they're that they're buying. So
if I can make a quick guess, I think he may reveal or get the information out there that the money that was used to purchase that church is not clean money, and because Sissy's she's doing all the work as far as getting this set up, she may end up being the one that has to take the fall for this. And that because I know that there was one promo of Snowfall they showed of the season where Elton made a comment to Franklin, talk about, he was talking about how horrible, how the drugs have torn apart the Los Angeles, and it also blamed his son and said, and it's also because of you. So my guess is that, because we know Alton really loves him some Sissy, something does happen to Sissy if she was to get arrested, because all of this time she's trying to make sure Franklin doesn't get arrested. And to go to what you said about the whole foreshadowing of with the whole interaction with Paul Davis and the snake comment by Elton, it could have been foreshadowing last week when Nix picked up Sissy and brought her to the gravesite of Andre, saying, "This is what your son has done. He was the one that killed Andre, and this is why you need to watch out for your son because he cannot be trusted." That could have been a warning to her to be careful getting in too deep into this. And the final payoff could be that if they do find out that they use drug money to purchase this church, well, they can easily arrest Sissy, and now that creates a problem within the family because they will see that, yes, this is all Franklin's fault, because if he would have never gotten into this game, he wouldn't have impacted everyone in his family the way that they are right now. So it definitely could be foreshadowing. I'm very curious to see what happens, but I like what you said 100% about the conflict within her, because we already know Mother's intuition. She's doing everything, as she said in this episode, to make sure that that Franklin doesn't die or go to jail. So it would be very ironic for her to be the one to end up going to jail because of something that her son did. So we'll see.
Yep. Because if that happens, like you said, somebody has to take the fall. So, is it going to be Sissy or is it going to be Franklin? So yeah, you're absolutely right about that. And then, we also have a scene in this episode where Franklin's driver and his protector, he mentions that it's getting too heavy and he wants to leave and everything like that. And, there's nothing that significant about that moment. It's just the fact that, I just found it interesting because sometimes in these shows, you don't always get a reflection of how, all of this is affecting, the regular people that we see throughout the episode. And this was a great reflection of that, to see, this war is serious. Like, it's real violence. Like, even though this is just a TV show for us, but like this scenario was played out in real life a number of times, and it affects so many people, when there are situations like this. So like just seeing such a minor character, be affected by what's happening was, that was powerful. And, it just makes everything else feel more authentic in the story. So
and I also say that was important also because that character also was in the army. So for him to say, for me to come home, if you think about anyone that was in the army, I could only imagine just to be in a battlefield like that. It's a lot more uncertainty when you go home to your own neighborhood and you see this type of stuff happening among people, your people. It has to feel a certain type of way. So I agree. Very good idea to have that perspective in there, because I'm pretty sure there's a lot of people that will relate to that and feel that mindset, especially now to this day, if certain things are happening in their neighborhood, but especially at that particular time, for sure. Yeah. So I'm glad they put that in there.
Yeah, and I have heard people say that, these gang wars back in the day, back in the 90s and stuff like that, they used to be like legit wars, because like people had AKs and all kind of machine guns and stuff that you would only find in the army or something, but these guys have it on the streets. So yeah, like it's a reflection that, this guy is from the army and he thinks this is like, way too much. So yeah, like this is some serious stuff that's happening with this gang war. So yeah, and then also you mentioned it as well, the girl that Franklin is now seeing, T. they are definitely setting something up with this character, because obviously we've seen her throughout the last few episodes. She kind of played a background role, but she also gave Franklin some information. There was that time where she told him that Scully was still alive and stuff. And then in this episode we see they're sleeping together, and then we see she's at the base or whatever when Franklin is speaking to Louis. She's behind the bar at the club. Yeah. So yeah, like they're definitely planning something, because there's a reason why they significantly highlighted this character in that moment, at the bar and everything. So yeah, I think they're setting something up, and I feel like she might have ties to one of the gang members or something. Maybe she's trying to set up Franklin or something, or somebody's trying to force her to set him up. I don't know, but something is going on there. So I can't wait to find out. What's gonna happen with that. And then what else happens? Oh yeah, so we see the private investigator as well when Leon is trying to get information about Scully, and we see that private investigator guy kind of take pictures and stuff and spy on him, and he ends up giving Leon and his friend some photos of the house that Scully has been visiting and stuff. So I wonder. Well, we kind of see what happens later on in the episode. So but yeah, I wondered if we're gonna see this personal investigator again somehow, in the future, and what kind of role he might play. So there was that, and then okay, so we already talked about Irene. So yeah, I mean, we saw what happened at the end of the episode when oh, actually, yeah, I forgot to mention Wanda. So Wanda, she gets shot. Through it, there's a couple shootouts in this episode. In the first one, we see Wanda actually saves Leon by she sees the car coming and everything. She sees something is about to happen, and she tells him to watch out. And then there's a shootout, and then she ends up being injured. And we see that these two characters still kind of care about each other, because she warned Leon, and then Leon is obviously hurt, by the fact that she got injured during this shootout, and then he's by her side at the hospital and everything. And I feel like this could be the beginning, because I know you questioned it earlier, but I feel like this could actually be the beginning of her maybe getting clean now. So maybe there's like a redemption story for Wanda incoming, where she kind of gets clean, she cleans up and everything, and hopefully maybe these two characters could get back together. But except we see what happens at the end of the episode.
Where, that might cancel that out.
Yeah, so this there's a moment of hope there that maybe these two characters could get clean and handle get back to the relationship they had. But then at the end of the episode, we see another act of violence where Leon's car is parked up outside the house, and then that other car drives by, and it's it's Scully's crew and everything, and they see each other, and everybody gets their guns out and starts shooting. And it seems like Leon obviously had some casualties in his car, but he gets out and fires some more shots, and it seems like he got the best of the shootout. He got the better out of the situation, it seems. But then he goes to the back of the car where there was obviously a woman there who was screaming before, and then he sees that there's a young child there who's been hit, a young girl, and yeah, his heart just sinks in that moment as he sees what he's done. And you mentioned the links between these characters, because it's Manboy's sister, is it? And and Scully's girlfriend.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So that character links both of the characters in the gang war. It links them together. So it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out, because now the woman has seen Leon. She knows exactly who shot and who killed the little girl and everything. So so like now she can go back and she can tell Scully what happened. Scully, like, and if Manboy hears about that, he's obviously going to be mad, and that might unify those two characters, and they might go after Leon. And then where does Franklin stand in that if that happens? This kind of puts, if you think about it, this puts a bit of power back in Franklin's hands, because he can now choose which side of the fence he's on. So if he wanted to, he could set something up here to where he eliminates everyone basically and gets rid of the problem. Or he if he's a real friend, if there's still something there in the friendship between him and Leon, he's gonna back up his boy, you know, and then that is gonna keep kind of intensify Franklin's situation, because now both Manboy and Scully are gonna be coming at him and Leon. So yeah, Franklin has to make a decision about, you know, what he's gonna do here, and how he's gonna react. But I think we all know that he's probably gonna side with Leon, you know, because it just.
Oh, you think so?
Well.
Yeah.
If,
Well,
you know,
here's the thing. This is what makes it a tricky situation. He could side with Leon, and try to, you know, do the right thing. I think they would say that he needs to take out Leon if he wants to prove that he's good. But I also think that if he was to give up Leon and say that they took out Leon, what's to say that they won't try to take out Franklin next?
Exactly.
Because that was his boy, and he was the one that they Scully specifically said, I want to kill Franklin Saint and everybody that knows him. So the fact that the Franklin's boy is the one that killed Scully's daughter, aka Manboy's niece, I think they would take out both of those. They would want to take out both of them, but they would obviously play Franklin so that they can get to Leon, and then as soon as they have opportunity, they would go right after Franklin.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's. I think if Franklin's a real guy, he'll help Leon, but like you said, like, because obviously Manboy and Scully unified together, they're probably going to try and put pressure on Franklin and say, look, this is your man, he killed this little girl, he needs to get got. But the thing is, if Franklin lets them pressure him to the point where he has to kind of, you know, set up Leon or whatever, or try and kill him, then that kind of compromises Franklin's character, and you know, that makes him weak, I think. So he, like, we actually see in the preview that there's a scene where, you know, Franklin is holding up the gun, I guess to Leon or whatever, but I don't think he's going to go through with it. I think you know, he's actually going to reverse things. So maybe Manboy and Scully put pressure on him, but I think, you know, when it comes down to it, and when he gets face to face with Leon, I think he's going to not go ahead with it, and kind of come up with his own plan to resolve the situation. So I think that's what's going to happen, but I guess we have to kind of see how exactly that will play out. But this does bring us to the discussion that we were going to now have after our takeaways, which is, you know, will Leon survive in this season of Snowfall? So, you know, Rich, you posed this question. So what do you think about this? Like, is Leon going to survive this season, do you think? Or, you know, what do you think is going to happen?
So I will say, John Singletary, a lot of the movies he's done in the past, and there's been other movies where there's a character that commits a violent act, and then they have either that character is dead or they have a bit of a revival. They get saved. This is what happened in Baby Boy, if you recall, to you know, Jodie's boy after they killed Snoop Dogg's character. This guy went and got reformed and got saved, and, you know, seemingly went about his life. That's not going to happen for every character, because if I believe Boys in the Hood, Ice Cube's character did eventually get killed, but that happened off camera. It didn't happen, you know, by the end of the movie. This is something where they, you know, where they give you a little message at the end that this is what happened to the character. If I recall, you know, anyone in the comments, let me know if I'm wrong, and please do correct me. But the point that I'm making here is that going along with what's happening in Snowfall, I personally, I don't think that Leon is going to survive this season, and I want to explain why. Yes, what happened with the daughter, it was a very tragic incident, but if you think about what has happened to Leon on this show in the past, in season 1, Leon got shot, and they had left it as a cliffhanger to make you wonder, did he survive that? And he did survive. So I kind of feel like that was the warning ahead of time to let you know this character could die. And since he's already escaped death one time, I don't think it's going to happen a second time, unless the character somehow leaves California, reforms and changes his life completely, I think it's going to be hard to do that. But what I think, what they'll probably do, really to give you the true dramatic gut punch, this probably won't happen till like right before the end of the season, maybe the episode before last, where eventually Leon is killed. It could happen before that, because then they have to show the downward spiral that continues to happen for Franklin. But I somehow feel like you're not going to have this character escape death in season 1 and then escape it again in season 4. I just don't see that happening. Because it really hits home the fact that there were a lot of casualties lost in this ongoing drug war. So, and again, we haven't really seen anybody close to Franklin die in quite some time. You saw Kevin, this character got killed off. You saw Andre got killed off. They made mention in the very first episode of this season when Elton was talking with Franklin about the flashbacks to when they used to watch, movies, and how he interacted with Leon. So this entire season has been about the interaction between Leon and Franklin, and are they going to ever reconcile and become friends again, become cool again? And it will be very tragic for that to end because of what happened this past week. But I kind of feel like something like that has to happen to hit home the fact that what Franklin has been doing all this time, it does have consequences. So either Sissy gets arrested, and it would be a total gut punch if Sissy got arrested and Leon got killed. But I kind of feel like it can go in that direction, because Franklin really needs to see and feel the impacts of what's going on. And because he failed to make a decision in how to deal with the situation between Manboy and Scully, he has to feel the consequences. We know they're not going to kill him off the show, because this guy is one of the main characters on the show. But you definitely have a lot of people around him who are very vulnerable and could be taken out at any point in time. And if I had to make a guess, I would say I really think Leon is possibly going to be the one that does go out. Would it impact so bad that it would make fans angry? Yes. But it's a realistic situation here, because everybody is not going to survive. But again, we'll see what happens. But I feel like if you want to talk about somebody who you want to see a reconciliation between friends, it's those two. And most of the times, people never make up as friends in real life before something happens to the other one. So I would not be surprised if Leon is killed off, and it would be unfortunate, but it would definitely make an impact in terms of what happens with Franklin moving forward. So
yeah,
we'll see.
Yeah. So do I think Leon is gonna survive episode 5? Yes. Do I think he's going to survive this season? No. Like, I agree with you. I definitely think, if I would bet on any of these characters, any of the main characters passing away this season, I would definitely, put money on Leon being the one to go out. And I feel like after what happened at the end of this episode, this is going to eat him alive for a very long time to know what he did. And, even if, him and Franklin are able to reconcile and, be cool again somewhat, I think this is going to continue to eat at his soul to the point where he's going to accept his own death. And, maybe, I don't know, how his life might end in this season, but I think he's going to put himself intentionally in a situation where his life could be ended. So, I'm not sure exactly how that might play out. There's a number of ways they could do it, but I think, he as a person is going to accept his own death, and, he's going to go ahead and, put himself in the position for that to happen. So that's what I think is going to happen. So we'll have to wait and see exactly how. I still think there's a possibility. I don't think it's going to happen in the next episode, but I think there still is a possibility that Franklin could be the one to do it. If Leon puts him in that situation to where he has to do it. So
here's the question. What would be worse, if Franklin was forced to kill Leon, or if Leon was killed in an act of saving Franklin?
I think it's worse if Franklin does it.
Yeah,
But I could totally see, Leon doing something to save Franklin. Like that would be an honorable
little sacrifice.
death for him. Yeah,
Yeah,
that would be an honorable way for him to go out, probably.
the only thing I would say is I don't have a problem with the character dying. I know there are a lot of people that are fans of the actor, and you don't want to see him die. But if he does have to die, I hope they take him out in a very good way. Uh, to give the character justice, represent well. Um, Not like what happened with your boy Omar on The Wire getting taken out. Let's not go down that path. If he has to go out, make it an honorable death. If he has to go down swinging, maybe he's in a shootout with Manboy or whatever, then have it in that way. Don't have it be something that comes totally out of left field. But we'll see what happens.
Yeah, and I also think, the people in charge of the show are going to set an example too. So it's like, even though this was an accident, I don't think they want, I think the message they want to put out is that you can't harm children and get away with it. So, so I think,
Exactly.
they're going to want to make an example of Leon in some way. So,
And if for any reason, to go back to what was mentioned earlier, if they are unsuccessful in getting to Leon, well, they definitely will get to Wanda and take out Wanda because they know that that was the person that was there to warn him. They know about the history he has with this character. Manboy especially knows. So I kind of feel like Wanda is also on borrowed time.
yeah. Yeah, I could see that. But yeah, this episode made things, very exciting, moving forward. So I can't wait till episode 5. I can't wait to see, what's gonna happen next. We did obviously get that preview. So there's a few there's a few things like the scene we mentioned with Franklin holding up the gun. We also see Scully, shooting at something. So is there anything noteworthy from that preview that you want to mention before we get out of here?
A lot of tension. Um, what I can confirm is that I did read the description of this next episode as well as the episode afterward, and it sounds to me like, based off of the description, something significant is going to happen in the next episode because basically what they alluded to in episode 6 in the description, it says that Franklin has to deal with the consequences of his actions. So something is going to happen in this next episode, and I don't know if it's going to be something that everybody is going to like. We just have to wait and see what the plan is. But either way, it will not be a happy ending for Franklin, Leon, any of these characters. So I hope people are prepared for that.
Okay, well, that description definitely makes it sound like Franklin does, go through and kill Leon, but hey, they could also be pulling the wool over our eyes. So who knows?
Yeah, exactly. Because they did, because you heard in that preview, Jerome mentioned we either going to sell out a Leon or we're going to protect Leon. Because if they protect Leon, they start a war. So I know people who are fans of the two characters in Snowfall. You will want them to just team up again and go against these guys because they have been, and they can very well take that path. But I kind of feel like, once again, when you introduce the whole thing of a kid getting killed, like you said, you're not going to show someone get away with that and there not be some consequences. So I'm curious how they're going to tell that story because it's no way it's going to end pleasantly for Leon either way.
Absolutely. So yeah, everybody listening, definitely drop your comments, leave your theories. We want to hear, what you guys have to say about this as well, and what you think is going to happen. But, for now, that's pretty much, all we have to talk about. And, we can't wait for the next episode. I'm sure it's going to be very intense. And, we will return next week to discuss that episode. So if you've listened to this and you enjoyed it, definitely leave a like, leave a comment, share it with your friends, and, just keep a lookout for the next episode. I will be working on getting the show up on more platforms, including Spotify and Apple Podcasts and everything like that. So look out for that in the future. But for now we are on YouTube, or you can go to thekoalition.com. And I will also post up the audio, in the Audio Mac audio player as well, if you want to listen to the audio version. For now, peace out, everyone. Make sure you have a good week, including you, Rich.
Thank you.
So,
you too, Gary.
Yeah. And we'll see you all next week.
Yes.
Peace.